there, my name's Niandra. A few months ago I made a video about Mercy as a character and the hashtag reworkmercy movement, where I said I wasn't a fan of it and pretty happy with her current state. Because of the workshop and feeling like I could have explained myself better in my previous video, I've been really itching to revisit some of these old topics. I want to start with Valkyrie, and I will look at this from the perspective of people who do not like it. For me personally, I've said many times, I love Mercy's current ult because it's fast charging and versatile. When doing research for my original Rework Mercy criticism video, I saw a lot of people refer to it as a spectator ult, which I hated then and I hate now. I think failed Valkyries are a lot more noticeable than other failed ults, especially to the person playing Mercy. Valkyrie is 15 seconds, which is a huge amount of time when used poorly, and the lack of hit markers during it are very noticeable. Compare this to Tracer, whose ult is also easy to mess up. She misses the pulse bomb and that's it. She immediately goes back to generating ult charge and moves on. I think adding more visual or sound-based feedback for Valkyrie could be a small change that would go a long way in helping how it's perceived. I've had ultimates where my chained, locked on healing that doesn't depend on a resource meter or have downtime for reloading keeps my team stable enough to win the fight. But it's not even noticeable unless I'm in an analyst type of mindset, and in no way is it flashy. Compare this to a death in the kill feed during Valkyrie. Yeah, you immediately notice that. Then there's damage boost. Someone in my comments once said that boosting during Valkyrie can be like turning on a garbage disposal, and I have always loved that. But maybe we could try changing the pitch depending on how many allies we're boosting. I've said this before, but it is very easy to have a non-impactful Valkyrie. I stream a lot and mess it up all the time, but I almost always have an explanation for where I went wrong. From my experience, bad Valkyries are usually due to bad timing and lack of player tracking on Mercy's part. For example, either my team or the enemy team is too split up. A bad Valkyrie could well be on the player, and it's healthy to keep this in mind because you don't improve if you don't admit to making mistakes. I also think we need to look at Valkyrie's limitations and be practical about it. Let me play this clip, and there's a lot like this one trying to show Valkyrie as bad. If you look at the kill feed, this person is running Ana Mercy against Zarya Genji. Yeah, that sort of thing is going to happen when you're not running a defensive ultimate against characters like that. Also, the enemy team used two ultimates, this team only used Valk, which can charge faster than both, so it's really not the end of the world if this team is quick to regroup. The first time I watched this clip, I did think, okay, to be fair, Mass Res would have been good here. Then I thought about it some more, and without Valkyrie giving Mercy airspace, this person easily could have been caught in it and died as well, or would have been hiding in anticipation of res, which is behaviour Blizzard wanted gone from the game. Valkyrie is not designed to counter a Grav Dragon combo, and neither are any of the main healer ultimates really. I said in my last video, I don't think main healers should have strong defensive ultimates. It could be problematic to pair two together, especially as more of them with high utility like Baptiste are released. Since making that statement, Blizzard have given us Immortality Field, but that is stationary, easy to destroy, doesn't make its targets invulnerable, and is way less consistent than Transcendence or Sound Barrier. Some people feel like only Mercy has bad ults, and I promise you it isn't the case. In fact, because Mercy's not stationary and the duration length, Valkyrie is probably the best ultimate at recovering from a poor start. For example, if I'm playing Orisa or Baptiste and place my object poorly, that whole ultimate could just be entirely useless. I am open to Valkyrie buffs. For starters, beam not breaking upon activation would be a godsend. It'd be more of a quality of life change than a proper buff anyway, in my opinion. There's been moments where I'm healing an ally who is low while other allies are injured, and I know if I ult to get all of them, my current target will die, and that's absolutely garbage. In the past, people have suggested giving Mercy a sort of cleanse ability that removes things like freeze or anti-heal on a teammate. I used to always shut this down because isn't that just a shittier Zarya shield? But I realised I was being dumb. At the moment, Overwatch is just filled to the brim with crowd control abilities, and honestly, God bless to any tank mains who actually still play the game. Recently, I've been playing a lot of Orisa and was talking about her ultimate with my friends. Instead of her bongos giving targets damage boost, what if it gave them her fortify effect? Maybe without the damage reduction though. The reason I mention this is because if the developers are happy with Orisa's current ult, then maybe Valkyrie could benefit from this instead. So, the people who are attached to Mercy's chain beam will receive some level of CC reduction. This might be too much and require a reduction in ult length, but please for the love of God, just give this to someone. Developers have talked about giving Mercy an ability on her reload key, so if Mass CC is too much, then maybe just a single target version would work instead. Before Mercy's healing nerf, her pick rate was basically 100%, and because of that I am cautious when it comes to big Valkyrie buffs, especially ones that don't acknowledge all the smaller benefits that it gives to Mercy herself, which seemed kinda common in the various workshop ideas I saw. Because of her nature, I don't think it would be that hard to push Mercy back into that state of complete dominance. In my guide, I say Valkyrie is a Swiss army knife, and because of this I am more interested in small buffs that increase utility further. One example would be res going off cooldown upon activation, or instant res during Valkyrie. You know, little things that would give me more reason to ult, but wouldn't make her mandatory again. Last idea, and it's gonna be hard to sell, but the ability to cancel Valkyrie prematurely. Please, stick with me! Okay, so 15 seconds is a very long time. Sometimes I get complete usage out of it if a fight drags out, other times we win the fight fairly fast, especially if I'm very aggressive with my damage boost. I said in my guide, damage boosting during Valkyrie then healing after the fight is won is a great idea because you only generate ult charge outside of ult, not when it's active. So being able to end Valkyrie once I've decided we've won the fight and allowing me to immediately start healing everyone back up would be a lovely buff in my opinion. Maybe it could even lead to strats where you end Valkyrie a second or two earlier to start generating ult charge quicker, who knows? Although I know this wouldn't be a popular addition if added. Honestly though, outside of trying 55 base healing per second or flat out reverting a healing nerf, most of the changes I want for Mercy are small quality of life things. Change her mass res achievement because in her current state, resing 6 people without dying is kinda crazy. Increase her on fire rate, fix that goddamn invalid flypath corpse bug, give us a developer blog about the recent damage boost change and let us know if and how Blizzard considered Mercy's playstyle with it. Alright, let's move on to mass res. Okay, so take into consideration that Mercy's mass res punished ult spam, which becomes less prevalent the higher you climb. Although bringing it back would be impactful to Mercy mains in uncoordinated matches, others might not have as much use for it. I remember hitting roughly 3600 SR and that was the point where players started getting really good at making mass res ineffective. When Rework Mercy was in its height, it did seem like a large portion of supporters were casual players or people in these mid ranks, which is fine, but it is where mass res was often considered a pub stomping ability. This is something I wanted to bring up in my original video, but at the time, prominent figures of the movement were looking for any angle they could find to dismiss criticism, and I was afraid of being harassed for rank shaming. So I left this alone, and I really wish I hadn't, because it shouldn't be controversial to say your rank may influence your opinion. Hey, even mine does. You know, it's important to at least acknowledge it. I went through the Rework Mercy hashtag a few times while making this video and I'm dying to talk about one tweet in particular. This person watched old non-reworked Mercy animatic gameplay and says she charged ult really quickly but only used it twice in 7 minutes. I quote, "It felt like she did not have an ult for like the whole game." In my opinion, not only does this paint mass res poorly, it adds weight to my previous arguments against it. One issue I have with the movement is that it felt like a lot of people in it were only looking out for Mercy mains and not really taking into consideration the game as a whole. To say it felt like this character did not have an ult, without realising how unhealthy that is, definitely reminds me of that mindset. And I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Ana medic skill, it's just old Mercy didn't have much utility. Compare old Mercy to Ana, pretend neither can ult, the latter can definitely offer a lot more. In the interest of fairness, I will say that Valkyrie gets more value the more people it hits. With mid or lower ranks, allies are more likely to be spread out and less coordinated. However, upon typing that last sentence out, I remembered that mass res also required people to die in a relatively small area. So, using the Wayback Machine, I learned that the range of mass res was 15 meters, while Valkyrie is currently 10, which isn't the biggest difference. So, if you can get value from one of these ultimates, you should be able to get value from both. Actually, increasing Valkyrie to 15 meters could also be a nice buff. You could argue that managing exactly who your beam is on is a skillful part of Valkyrie, but Moira's default healing range is also 15, and yours being smaller is kinda silly. Alright, let's wrap this up. One thing that would be really cool is if Blizzard took, I don't know, the most popular custom-made game modes and put them inside the actual arcade on temporary rotation. This could definitely keep it lively and fresh, and might actually be necessary to keep the workshop alive long term if dedicated servers or the ability to actually write code aren't added. For example, maybe we could have a week of 2016 Overwatch, which would gauge interest. Plus, new players who were never around to experience things like Old Mercy or Old Symmetro would get a chance to. And that's all from me this time. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out my Patreon, and have a nice day.